You didn't choose this life. Nobody does. But for the next 12 minutes, it's yours. You wake up before your body wants to. You always do now. Not because of an alarm, because of the cold that's found its way through your third layer, or because a security guard's flashlight just swept across your face, or because your hip has gone numb against the concrete and the pain woke you before the light did. You don't stretch. You listen first. That's the first thing this life teaches you. Before you move, you listen. Footsteps, voices, the particular sound of a shopping cart's wheel, which might be someone you know or might not be. Sleep, real sleep, is something you do in fragments now. An hour here, 40 minutes there. Your body has learned to rest without ever fully letting go. You open your eyes to a gray sky and do the math you do every morning. How cold is it? How wet is it? And how much of today is going to be about survival instead of anything else? Before anything else, you check your bag. Not because you think someone took something in the night, though sometimes they did, but because checking is a ritual now. A way of confirming that you still exist, that your life hasn't been reduced to nothing while you slept. Your ID, your phone, if you have one, its battery already at 19%, a folded intake form from a shelter that hasn't called you back, a photograph, soft at the corners from being handled so many times. That ID matters more than almost anything else you own. Without it, you can't get into a shelter bed. You can't apply for the job you saw a flyer for. You can't prove in the eyes of any system that you are who you say you are. People who've never lost their housing rarely think about how much of adult life depends on a small plastic card and how catastrophic it is to lose it. You zip the bag closed and put it on before you put on your shoes. In this life, your belongings go on your back before your feet even touch the ground. Every single day starts with the same question. Where do I go first? Not what do I want to do? Where is the nearest restroom that's open? Where can you refill your water bottle without being told to leave? Which coffee shop has a bathroom code that hasn't been changed yet? Which library opens earliest? You've built a mental map of this city that almost no one else carries. Not the tourist map, not the commuter map, but the map of where you're allowed to exist for the next hour. A gas station 2 blocks north lets you use their sink. A church basement 3 blocks south sometimes has coffee out by 7. The public library doesn't open until 9, which means 2 hours of just moving. Staying visible enough to not look suspicious, invisible enough to not be noticed at all. That contradiction, be seen enough to be safe, invisible enough to be left alone, never fully resolves. You just learn to walk the line. You wash your face in a gas station sink. You brush your teeth with water from a bottle you refilled yesterday. You do this not out of hope that anyone will notice you're clean, but because you notice. Because holding on to this one habit is a way of holding on to who you were before and who you still are underneath all of this. Dignity isn't a big, dramatic thing out here. It's small. It's a clean face. It's tucking in your shirt. It's making sure your hands don't shake when you speak to someone, even when everything else in your life feels like it's shaking. People assume homelessness erases self-respect. It doesn't. It just makes self-respect cost something. Every ounce of it here is earned, defended, and hard-won. Food isn't really about hunger anymore. It's about timing. You know exactly which days the food pantry 2 miles away hands out bags, and which hour the bakery puts out yesterday's bread before it goes in the dumpster. You know a diner where the cook sometimes slides you a to-go box without being asked and never makes it a whole conversation about it. Just a nod. And you eat with your dignity intact because he didn't make a show of his kindness. You haven't eaten a hot meal in 2 days. Today, if the timing works, that might change. The hardest part isn't always the hunger itself. It's the constant calculating. How many calories will get you through the walking you'll do today? How long you can stretch a granola bar? Whether it's worth the 2 miles to the pantry if it means missing the 1 hour the day labor office is hiring. This is the part almost no one prepares you for. The loneliness of being seen and unseen at the same time. Dozens of people pass you in an hour. Most don't look at you. A few look at you like you're a mess to step around. One person crosses the street early, like homelessness might be contagious. You feel it every time. That flinch of being erased in real time, in public, again and again. It's not violence. It's smaller than that. And somehow it accumulates into something heavier than violence. Isolation, when you're never actually alone, is its own particular kind of exhausting. Then, without warning, someone stops. It's such a small thing. A coffee. 30 seconds of eye contact. But it lands like something enormous because it's proof that you're still visible as a person, not just a problem on a sidewalk. You'll think about that 30 seconds for the rest of the day. You want out of this. Whatever people assume, that you don't, that you've given up, it isn't true. You are, right now, trying. But trying takes resources you don't have. Most job applications assume you have an address, a phone that stays charged, a shower, an interview outfit, a good night's sleep behind you. You have none of those things reliably. You show up anyway. You fill out an application on a library computer with a countdown timer ticking in the corner of the screen because the next person is already waiting for your seat. You list a friend's address because you don't have one of your own, and you hope it doesn't come up in conversation. A day labor van sometimes comes by at noon. If you're picked, it's cash, it's exhausting, and it's real. If you're not picked, that's the day's plan gone, and you start over on figuring out what comes next. The weather isn't background noise in this life. It's a threat level. Rain means your sleeping bag might be wet tonight, and a wet sleeping bag in cold weather isn't an inconvenience. It's a genuine danger. Heat means the risk of dehydration and heat stroke, especially if the cooling centers are far away or already full. Cold means checking your fingers for numbness, watching for the confusion that's an early sign of hypothermia, knowing that people have died from nights far less brutal than the one that might be coming. You start planning for tonight now, hours before dark, because waiting until you're already cold and already tired is how people get hurt. You call the shelter hotline. Again. We don't have a bed tonight, but call back tomorrow. You've heard this so many times, the words barely register anymore. There is a number, real, documented, of people experiencing homelessness in this country, and there are nowhere near enough beds for all of them. That's not a personal failure. That's arithmetic. You hang up, and the plan for tonight becomes, once again, finding a spot that's dry, out of the wind, and most importantly, safe. This decision, more than almost any other today, could determine whether you're safe tonight. You're not just looking for shelter from weather. You're running through a checklist that's become second nature. Is this spot visible enough that someone would notice if something happened, but hidden enough that you won't be told to move at 2 a.m.? Is it near people you trust or strangers you don't know yet? Is there a clear way out if you need one?
Violence against people experiencing homelessness is real, and so is theft. And so is the particular vulnerability of sleeping somewhere your body is completely unguarded. You've learned to sleep light. You've learned which doorways belong to which people, unofficially, the way apartments belong to tenants. You respect those lines because they are one of the only forms of order left in a day that otherwise has none.
This is the part of the day nobody films because there's nothing to see. Just you lying still and your mind refusing to be still with you. You think about tomorrow, the same questions as today, on a loop. Food, safety, the cold, whether the shelter will finally call, whether your family knows where you are, or whether they've stopped wondering. The shame is quieter at night, but it doesn't disappear. It just waits until you're alone enough to hear it. You wake again. Not fully, just enough to check your surroundings, the way you always do. Nothing's changed, no one's near. You let your eyes close again. In this hour, alone with your thoughts and nothing to distract you from them, it would be easy to let the day's weight collapse into hopelessness. Some nights, it does. That's honest, and it deserves to be said plainly instead of softened for a camera.
But some nights, like tonight, you hold on to something small instead. The coffee a stranger handed you at eye level. The half meal shared in the dark. The fact that you woke up at all, and that waking up one more time is its own quiet kind of defiance. You are still here. Whatever else has been taken from you, that hasn't.